because you just watched one of the most entertaining games I've seen in a while. I would argue the best point guard performance that I have seen in a long, long time from Braden Smith, and one of the most unique game-winning plays I can ever remember seeing. Let's start with this. Break down what happened on that baseline out of bounds and how Houston won this game tonight on Friday night here in the Sweet 16.
Well, first off, the environment was unbelievable.
Mike, you muted.
For a stadium.
Mike, you muted.
No. I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you now.
Okay. This was incredible. I mean, for this to be Lucas Oil Stadium and to be the environment that we had in there was absolutely outstanding. So I wanted to start there because credit Purdue fans, Houston fans, I thought showed up in a big way, Kentucky and Tennessee, but this game in general, man, I think so highly of Purdue in the way they came out. I thought this wasn't a good matchup for them. I think a lot of people thought it wasn't a good matchup for them. And they not only just said, hey, or then just sit back and say, hey, we're going to be on the defensive tonight and we're going to dodge punches. We're going to throw some. And they threw some to start. I thought they were active. They got after it. And, to get down 56-46 in this game and then step up the way they did and respond the way they did. And it all starts with not only their point guard, but I think with their coach as well. So we'll get into the nuts and bolts of it. But the last play was really interesting. I'm sitting there watching the game, and I got a guy sitting next to me, and I said, you got to watch the inbounder because Purdue switches off the inbounder. So the guy that is guarding the inbounder, which was Braden Smith in this situation, whenever a guy comes off and curls towards the corner on the ball side or on the weak side, they're going to go and take that, and then they're going to switch out of it. So Kelvin Sampson knew that with 2.2 seconds left and said, okay, we want to get it back to UConn inbounding it. How are we going to do that? Let's send Cryer off to the weak side. We're going to have Braden Smith follow him. That's going to open up Tugler to slip to the basket. When he slips to the basket, that's going to get guys' attention. He catches it, flips it right back to UConn for a layup. I mean, it was so well designed, but you have to execute it too. And that's exactly what Houston did. And that's why they're advancing. That's why they've had such a great year this year, because they execute in big moments. And what bigger moment than here in the Sweet 16 to advance to a absolute death match that is going to take place here on Sunday against Houston and Tennessee.
The over-under there is going to be like 103. It's going to be the exact opposite of what happened with Alabama and BYU the other night. Goodman, I'm going to give you a second to kind of recover over there after your conversation with Bruce. I'm going back to you for one more thing, Mike. The biggest storyline is Milos Uzan, 22 points, 6 assists, game-winning shot, right? But to me, the second biggest storyline is that Braden Smith put together one of the best performances I've seen from a point guard, and probably the best. I'm just going to say the best half in the history of college basketball from a point guard. What? He had 12 assists, assisted on every single one of Purdue's field goals, completely eviscerated the defense that Houston had, and brought them all the way back. Mike, I'm speechless from watching what he did. He completely carved them up. It was unbelievable.
Again, give credit to Houston, but that's the best point guard in college basketball, period. End of story. And he proved it tonight. I get it in a losing effort, but for him to have the turnover problems that he had against McNeese, I honestly didn't care about those, because if you watch that High Point game, if you watch that McNeese game, Braden Smith has brought a different type of focus and energy to this tournament. He always has a high level of competitiveness, his competitive spirit. It cranked up another notch in this tournament. And when you're there and when you're watching it live, you can feel it. The way he pulls guys along, the way he makes his teammates push through fatigue. And then just schematically, as a point guard, you're sitting there and saying, okay, if you want to put 2 on the ball, and he struggled with this throughout the year. When Michigan State would put 2 on the ball and he had 6 turnovers in East Lansing, he had 6 turnovers, I think, in Bloomington against Indiana. And he was so smart tonight, because what he did was say, you know what, when 2 get put on the ball for me, I'm not trying to get downhill with the 2 on the ball. I'm going to drag these 2 out as far as I can, east-west. And when I do that, that's going to spread this Houston defense out. And I know I got a guy on the weak side. I got, whether it's Harris, Colvin, Heidi, any of those guys to knock down shots. And he just manipulated the defense in a pretty unbelievable way tonight. But again, wasn't enough, because I just think that you have to do it for a full 40 minutes against this Houston team. We've seen that. Shots were short for Purdue to start the second half. I mean, I thought the worst thing that happened to Purdue tonight was halftime.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong, because Houston came out and they were ready to go, and they punched them right back in the mouth. And you push that lead out to 10. That coming back against Houston is the hardest thing to do. Goodman, you have been skeptical, I think, of Houston more than the rest of us, right? Like put comparatively, like I think Houston's in the same tier as Duke and Florida, and you think that they're a little bit below that. Does this concern you, the way that Purdue was able to come back against them?
I mean, a little bit, because again, we've said it all year, Purdue isn't that difficult to prepare for, right? I mean, yes, Braden Smith is the best point guard in the country. Nobody's disputing that. And Fletcher Loyer was great early in this game. He got off to a great start. But ultimately, I still don't know if I trust Houston in a game in which, again, that maybe they get behind in and they've got to score. LJ Cryer wasn't great tonight. Uzan had to carry them. He did that. He's been sensational the second half of the season. I just don't think that Tennessee game's going to be great. I just think Tennessee's got more weapons, guys. They've got guys that I trust that can put points on the board. Zakai Ziegler was terrific again tonight, right? Takes care of the ball, does everything. Chaz Lanier, we know, can go off for 25. I don't have that same level of confidence in Houston's guards and wings.
Mike?
Yeah, I just from a personnel standpoint, this is part of what you have to factor in when you play against Houston, especially defensively, when they rotate the way they do, because they will put two on the ball. That's how they force turnovers. That's how they force havoc. And so your personnel is so important offensively. You saw Caleb First get pulled out of the game 2 minutes into the second half. We got to go Heidi. We have to. We have to sacrifice the rebounding to get offense on the floor and spread these guys out and put four shooters around Trakoff and Wren. We have to do it. So when I look at Tennessee, you can put Akpar out there, have him be a rim runner, but who are you surrounding him with? Is it Milicic? Is it Gainey?
Yes.
Is it Dubar? I mean, they're like, you're going to have to, and Lanier, of course, and Ziegler's going to have the ball in his hands, manipulating like Braden Smith did tonight. And so that's what I'm looking for in this Tennessee-Houston matchup is what
you have
is
more
that
weapons.
Like?
You have more weapons for Tennessee than Purdue does. No doubt. As long as Milicic shows up, he's the key. He's the key.
And he is the key, because you saw Painter trying to search a little bit, because it's like, okay, we can't, if we have Heidi in too long, Roberts is going to crush us on the glass. But if we have First in too long, we're not going to get what we want offensively. Tennessee can survive because of Milicic. Right. That's because when you have a guy like him at the four, it's different, because he can rebound and he can space.
Yes.
So that's the difference there for,
he's got to play
Tennessee.
tough, though.
He's
got to play
so
tough.
And I thought Matt Painter was pretty masterful tonight, trying to work in and steal minutes in different places so that he didn't, overload his personnel one way or the other. I thought that kept them in the game, to be honest, in addition to, his point guard being great. But sitting there live, you see it with Houston, man. They're just kind of always right here. And that's why in those pressure moments, they're able to step up and execute. It's when you win and win as consistently as they do, it's coaching, it's the mentality they have. It's all of that baked into, what makes them a really good team.